Welcome to the Wife Stories YouTube channel. New video every day, and don't forget to subscribe. Here we go.
Asterisk drip. Asterisk drip. Asterisk drip. Asterisk. I stood there in the silence, listening to that maddening sound of water hitting the porcelain sink. My mind was blank. My heart refused to pound. I felt disconnected from my own skin, almost as if I were floating in the hallway. No pain, just numbness, like my nerves had decided to shut down before delivering the final blow. Then, all at once, it came crashing down, a tidal wave of realization that swamped my lungs and sent my head spinning. The floor felt unstable beneath my feet, and I staggered forward, clutching at the edge of the doorway for balance. I couldn't believe it at first. I had gone out of my way to ignore the clues. The extra time she spent on her phone, the new password on her lock screen, the faint tension in her laugh whenever I walked by. But all it took was one small detail, a minor thing, some might say, to make the foundation of my life crack. She added him to our family Netflix account. That single act sliced through my illusions more violently than any confession could. I discovered it by accident. I opened the app and saw a new profile named M. The sight of that simple letter hit me like an ice pick to the gut. My name is John. Hers is Alex. We have no children, no pets, no relatives in the apartment who'd need a separate profile. M. That could only stand for one person. Michael. He was no secret to me. Not after noticing how she'd been texting more than usual, how she'd speak in hushed tones when I passed through the living room. But seeing his initial right there, under the same umbrella as me and her, felt like a bold, cruel statement. Asterisk. I'm here now. Deal with it. Asterisk. My first reaction was pure shock, then this hollow fury. I wanted to punch something, but my arms just wouldn't move. My brain was stuck, playing the same worthless loop. Asterisk. She added him to our Netflix. She added him. Asterisk. That's what my marriage had been reduced to. A streaming service membership that two men now shared. That evening, we had a party to attend. A corporate gathering, something related to my client's big investment pitch. I tried to cancel. I felt dizzy, nauseous at the thought of wearing a smile when I was moments away from meltdown. But Alex insisted. She said it would look strange if we didn't show up. Maybe she was worried about appearances. Maybe she was trying to maintain an illusion. Or maybe she just wanted to be near him. I drove us both there in silence, knuckles white around the steering wheel. She sat next to me, phone in hand, occasionally glancing my way with that practiced, "Everything okay?" expression. I stared straight ahead, ignoring her attempts to make conversation. She asked if I was nervous about presenting my ideas at the party. I gave a curt nod, then muttered something about big night. When we arrived, the place was buzzing with laughter, clinking glasses, and that electric hum of corporate schmoozing. My eyes hurt from the overhead lighting. People I barely recognized greeted me with warm handshakes, praising me for my financial expertise. I forced a smile. I tried to keep my face from showing the raw tension coiled up in my chest. It didn't take long for me to see him. Michael. Tall, dark hair cropped short, that confidence set to his shoulders. He stood near the bar, wearing a crisp shirt open at the collar. He didn't notice me at first, or maybe he pretended not to. But Alex saw him, and something fluttered across her expression. A spark in her eyes. A slight, involuntary twitch of her lips. I'll never forget that moment. If you could bottle heartbreak and betrayal into a single second, that was it. The air around me turned stale. My gut churned, and my mouth went dry. I used to think if I ever caught her in a lie, I'd be furious. I'd lash out, maybe even cause a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I felt strangely calm, like a soldier stepping onto a battlefield he's studied 1,000 times. "John, are you okay?" someone asked, an acquaintance, a partner of a partner in a random business deal. I nodded, numb. The music was loud, the wine was flowing, and all I could focus on was how Alex kept checking her phone. Not that she was overt about it, She tried to be discreet, but I knew. Every time the screen lit up, her gaze flicked downward, and her lips parted in a small breathy sigh. I slipped away from the main crowd to stand by a tall table with an untouched drink in my hand. I wasn't in the mood for conversation or alcohol. Instead, I watched, observed, waited. She moved gracefully through the room, politely chatting with men in suits and women in cocktail dresses, making jokes about the stock market or marketing strategies. Her field. But whenever that phone pinged, her fingers twitched, her eyes glowed, and a tiny electric jolt seemed to pass through her body. I told myself I needed a moment alone. I left my untouched glass on the table and stepped into a quieter corridor where dim lights accentuated paintings of cityscapes. Every step I took echoed on the tiled floor. I pressed my palms to my temples, trying to piece together a plan. Part of me wanted to confront them both, here and now. Another part insisted I wait for the perfect time, to do something more decisive, something final. Suddenly, I heard muted laughter from around the corner. I peeked out and saw them. Alex, leaning against the wall, phone in hand. Michael, close enough that their shoulders brushed. She smiled, that soft, intimate smile I used to think was meant only for me. Her eyes flicked over his face, and he lowered his voice, saying something I couldn't catch. Whatever it was, it made her laugh. The sound stabbed me right in the heart. He reached out and touched her wrist. A gentle, quick movement, barely noticeable in the dim light. But I saw it, saw how her breathing changed. Suddenly, I could almost feel the heat between them. The air grew thick with tension, sexual and raw. My teeth clenched so hard I thought my jaw would break. I remembered how she used to look at me like that when we were newlyweds. The way she'd whisper my name in a husky tone, the way she'd arch her body when I pressed close in the dark. Now she was giving him that same expression, that same open, yearning look. My face burned with humiliation and rage. I wanted to storm over, wrench her away from him, and demand answers. But I didn't move. My feet were planted. My head pounded with a million swirling thoughts. Suddenly, I was no longer just a husband being cheated on. I was a man with a plan. The notion hit me like an adrenaline shot. Asterisk, I will make her pay for this. Asterisk, a surge of energy coursed through my veins. I let them slip away, further down the corridor. They'd probably assumed they were hidden from prying eyes. She typed something on her phone, and he nodded, leaning in to say one last thing before they returned to the party, each taking separate paths to avoid suspicion. When the time came for me to step back into the throng of people, I forced the corners of my mouth into a half smile. Someone called my name, praising my upcoming business project. I heard my own voice responding as though on autopilot. Yes, big venture, a sure thing, worth investing. I caught Alex glancing at me from across the room. She looked a bit nervous, maybe because she felt me slipping away from her. I returned her gaze coolly, letting her see only a flicker of my pain. We left the party late. After midnight, I drove again, silence thick as tar around us. She fiddled with the radio, turning it to low jazz, but the music did nothing to soothe the tension. My breath was ragged, my pulse hammered in my neck. I hear her voice get louder, as if on a phone call, but I can't make out the words. She's urgent, upset, possibly telling Kevin something like, "I don't know what's going on," or maybe she's leaving a voicemail, or maybe she's just cursing under her breath. I can't bring myself to move from the desk. My eyes trace the photograph pinned to my corkboard, me and her on vacation, smiling by some shoreline. We look younger, happier. That was a good time. Or maybe I just invented the memory. I can't be sure anymore. I force myself to stand, crack my knuckles, try to blow out the tension. My mind drifts back to last night, how I was lying awake waiting. The clock read 2:07, then 2:15, then 3 o'clock. She was still gone. The combination of worry and dread gnawed at me, a shapeless beast in my chest. She came in at 4, the lock beep. I closed my eyes, tried to slow my breathing, pretended to be asleep. She crept in. The mattress sank slightly under her weight. She smelled like faint cologne, the kind I never wear. She exhaled softly, as if relieved I wasn't stirring. A minute later, I felt her shift again, and something about the way she moved made me think she was still flushed with desire, or at least with adrenaline. My heart hammered. I wanted to turn to her, to look into her face, but I couldn't. I was too afraid of seeing the truth there. Now, I step out of my office. She's in the living room, looking out the window. I walk to the threshold. We're a few steps apart, but it feels like an ocean. She murmurs something about wanting to fix this, wanting me to forgive her, but the words are so hollow. Her voice is trembling. She's not even sure if she believes it, or if it's just an attempt at damage control. I swallow, try to gather a response. I can't. There's that moment where I could say, "Who is Kevin to you? Why do you keep running to him at night? Is he so much better than me?" But I can't bring myself to form the questions out loud. Maybe it's shame. Maybe I'm terrified of hearing the answers. I drift to the coat rack, pick up my jacket. It's hardly 7 in the morning now. The day is just beginning, but it already feels like the end. She watches me, eyes wide, maybe guessing I'm about to leave for good. I open the front door, step outside again. I need coffee or air, or just an excuse to be away from her. The neighbor's lights are still on. Mrs. Grant across the street is watering her plants. She waves, calls a friendly greeting. I force a nod, wave back. My voice cracks. She probably wonders why I look so ragged. In her mind, we're just that nice couple who moved here a few years ago. She might suspect something's off. People sense these things, but I doubt she has any clue of the swirling chaos in my living room. I get in my car and start the engine, but I don't drive anywhere. I sit there, letting the motor hum. Then I kill the engine, rest my forehead on the steering wheel, and try not to cry. My father always said men shouldn't cry. He hammered that into me from childhood, an old-school approach. I know it's nonsense, but the conditioning is deep. Instead of tears, I just feel a low moan in my throat. My phone buzzes in my pocket. I pull it out. It's a text from her number. Another snippet, maybe. "I betray you," or something else. I don't want to look. My hand trembles. I set the phone face down on the passenger seat. This is my own cruelty rebounding on me. I remember how, a few weeks ago, I noticed the changes in her routine. She started wearing more perfume, more lip gloss, new outfits, just subtle enough not to set off alarm bells if I was inattentive. Then the late-night messages, the phone calls outside. Every time I'd approach, she'd click the phone off. I told myself, maybe she's planning a surprise or dealing with a friend's crisis. Like an idiot, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Because I loved her. Because the alternative was too painful. But denial has an expiration date. The day I found that men's jacket in her trunk, she insisted it was for a friend. Her eyes flickered with guilt. Even then, I said, "All right, I trust you." But somewhere inside, the truth was carving me out like a rotting core. I start the engine again, pull out into the street, decide to drive to a diner. My hand is unsteady on the wheel. I can't remember the last time I slept properly. My thoughts keep going in circles. I cross a few blocks, pass a park. Dawn light is creeping across the lawns. At the diner, I slip into a booth. There are 2 older men at the counter, sipping coffee. They glance at me with mild curiosity. The waitress, a kind-faced woman who's worked here for years, asks if I want my usual. I nod. Or maybe I grunt. She smiles sympathetically, like she can sense heartbreak. People who see customers day in and day out develop a 6th sense for trouble. I get the coffee, black, no sugar. It tastes bitter, but it's the warmth I need. My phone pings again, and this time I flip it over. It's from her. The text is basically a repetition. Maybe she's realized I tampered with her phone. Maybe she's typing, "Where are you? please come back, but it's spitting out nonsense or partial confessions. I set my phone face down again. I sip coffee in silence, my eyes burning. The men at the counter keep talking about last night's football game, the big upset. They're laughing, enjoying a carefree morning. I envy them. The waitress eventually asks if I'd like anything else. I just shake my head. She moves on with that gentle, non-intrusive compassion that servers develop. She doesn't pry. After finishing the coffee, I slip out of the diner without a word. The sunlight outside is sharper now. I see my reflection in the glass door. Unshaven stubble, dark circles under my eyes. I get back in my car, drive aimlessly through residential streets, past the same row of houses over and over. Everything looks normal from the outside. I wonder how many people are going through the same torment behind closed doors. How many men are silently swallowing that sense of betrayal, too afraid to speak or too broken to fight. My phone starts vibrating. I see it's my boss from work, probably checking on that marketing proposal. I ignore it. I can't deal with that right now. Instead, I park near a small playground, watch parents with toddlers. They push the kids on swings, they chase them around, laughter echoing in the crisp morning air. My wife, Emily, once said she wanted kids. We planned it so carefully, or at least talked about it. Then it kept getting postponed. My career got busy. Her schedule changed with a new teaching position. We told each other, next year. Next year. Now I realize, maybe that was just a convenient excuse, or maybe deep down she knew something was unraveling. Or maybe I was too wrapped up in my own ambitions to see her drifting away. Eventually, I can't sit here anymore. I drive home, not sure what I'll do when I get there. The house is quiet when I enter. The living room curtains are still drawn, so it's dim inside, nearly dark despite the morning sun outside. It's like the house has turned into a cave. I hear muffled steps upstairs. My stomach drops. For a split second, I wonder if Kevin is in my house right now. The very idea sends my heart racing, but I know it's unlikely. She wouldn't be so bold, or would she? I find her in the upstairs hallway, phone in hand, obviously upset. She's turned the screen to me, maybe expecting me to explain the sabotage. She tries to ask, "Did you do this?" I see a mixture of anger and shame on her face, like she's confronting me for violating her privacy, even as she's the one who broke my trust. I exhale, keep my lips pressed tight. She steps closer, the phone shaking in her hand. She says my name, tries to get me to look at her. It's the first time in weeks I feel a jolt of something like power, though it's ugly power. I simply shrug, like I have nothing to say. My silence is the only weapon I have. She steps back, rubs her forehead, exhales. She tries to reason with me, maybe. She wants me to see her perspective, or she's rationalizing. She's talking in half sentences. You've been distant. I felt alone. I never wanted to hurt you. It just happened. You and I were drifting. It isn't what you think. I swear. The words blur, a litany of half-lies and half-truths. I hold up my hand again. That same gesture as before. Enough. She quiets. We stand like that for a moment, the tension pressing around us. Then I speak for the first time. I tell her she doesn't need to explain. That's all I say, in a flat, cold tone. Her eyes fill with tears, but I can't tell if they're tears of regret or frustration. She tries to ask if I still love her. My mouth moves, but no sound comes out. I swallow painfully and just turn away, heading down the stairs. She follows, but keeps a few steps behind, like a shadow. In the kitchen, I open a cupboard, rummage for a glass, fill it from the tap. She lingers in the doorway, scanning my every move. She's waiting for me to lash out or break down. Instead, I just stand there, leaning against the counter, sipping water without tasting it. She eventually says that she wants to talk, that we can fix things if we try. I set the glass down, walk to the living room couch, sink into it. The cushions swallow me up. There's an emptiness in my chest so deep it feels like I'll never claw my way out. She sits on the armchair across from me. The morning light creeps through the edges of the curtains, but mostly it's still in shadow. She starts talking again, trying to fill the silence. She confesses she met Kevin a while back, that it was purely friendly at first, some connection with the restaurant he manages, maybe a conversation that sparked. She found him exciting or supportive, or some nonsense about how he listens to her in a way I stopped doing. My jaw clenches. I want to bark. Are you seriously justifying cheating on me because I didn't gush over your every word? But I don't. I keep listening in stony silence, letting the words swirl around me. She says it was never meant to go this far, that it started with coffee, progressed to dinners, eventually nights. Each step, she says, felt like it was crossing a line, but she couldn't stop. She tries to explain the guilt and the thrill. She tries to say she's sorry, that she hates herself for it. I almost laugh. Hate yourself for it? Then why do it over and over? The cynic in me wants to spit in disgust. But I remain quiet. Let her talk. Let her bury herself in the confession. Let her own the weight of it. She tries to glean some kind of absolution from me, but my face is numb. My eyes are hollow. She starts to cry, but I can't find sympathy. The tears might be real, but so was her betrayal. She says my name again, tries to approach, like she wants to hug me or hold my hand. I recoil, stand up, pace to the window. She stops, arms hanging by her sides, tears tracking down her cheeks. Time passes in that suffocating half-light. I don't even notice how long we've been there until my stomach growls, reminding me I haven't eaten. But hunger is the last thing on my mind. Finally, she stands, says she needs to step outside, get some air. I don't object. Once she's gone, I collapse back onto the couch, let out a trembling exhale. My head throbs. If this were a single betrayal, I might have tried to salvage it, talk it through. But it's been going on, behind my back, systematically. She came home at 4 in the morning just a few hours ago. And now I'm supposed to believe she's sorry. Eventually, I go upstairs. My phone's on the nightstand. The battery's low. I plug it in, then slump onto the bed. I think about all those times I lay here while she was out. The sleepless nights, the constant swirling thoughts. My mind cuts to a sudden memory. An image of her pinned against someone else, lips parted, eyes closed. I physically recoil as if stung. I can't handle that mental picture, but it's burned into my imagination. The bed we share feels contaminated now. I drag myself up, go to the bathroom, splash cold water on my face. My reflection in the mirror looks hollow. My eyelids droop with exhaustion. I hear the front door open downstairs. She's back. I hear her rummaging in the kitchen. Then, footsteps on the stairs. She hesitates outside the bedroom, as if she's debating whether to come in. I brace myself, but she passes by. I hear her step into the guest room, the door closing softly. Good. Let her stay there. I slide down against the wall, knees drawn up. The entire day becomes a blur of near silence, the two of us moving around the house, avoiding each other's eyes. Twice, I think I hear her on the phone, maybe to Kevin, telling him it's over, or telling him she's not sure what to do. I can't care. I'm too far gone. By late afternoon, I've answered 0 calls from my office, ignoring the outside world. My chest feels tight. I keep taking shallow breaths. The tension builds into the next day. She tries to approach me at different moments, offers me a plate of food, asks if we can talk. I either ignore her or wave her off. She grows frustrated, raises her voice. A sharp question. Say something. Please, just say anything. My jaw sets. I walk out of the room. The next time she corners me, tries to block the doorway. Her eyes are bloodshot. She says she's truly sorry. She says she can't stand my silence. She begs me to scream at her if I must, but not this cold ignoring. I push past her, silent. She slumps down, sobbing, but I feel no pity. My heart is like a stone. The sweet taste of vengeance is overshadowed by the bitterness in my throat. But I can't stop. This is the only control I have left. Late that night, I sensed the phone buzzing. She's asleep in the guest room, or at least lying there awake. I see a message light on her phone. I glance at it from across the hallway. Then I turn away. In the bed, I stare at the ceiling, my mind a wreck. I recall the day she told me she loved me for the first time, back when we were dating. She said it softly, her eyes shining, and I believed her with my whole soul. That memory is sharp now, slicing through me. I close my eyes, try to breathe. For a moment, I feel tears well up, but I swallow them down. My father's voice echoes in my head, telling me men don't cry. I grind my teeth until my jaw aches. Days pass in a haze. I go through the motions. Sometimes I leave the house, drive aimlessly for hours. Once I park near Kevin's restaurant. He's inside, presumably. I stand across the street, watching from behind tinted windows. I see a flash of him through the glass doors, tall, well-groomed, with a confident stride. A pang of jealousy and hate clenches my gut. I think about walking in there, confronting him. But what would I say? Attack him physically, demand an explanation. He's not the one who promised me vows at an altar. She did, and I can't shake the sense that my real battle is with her or with myself. I drive back home. The house is silent. She's in the living room, looking at old photo albums, tears streaming down her face. I stand in the doorway, watch for a few seconds. She senses me, looks up. She tries to say something, like, "Remember when we visited Chicago last Christmas? Or you said you loved how I looked in that red sweater?" I just stare. She closes the album, sets it aside, stands up. She approaches me. Her voice is low, unsteady. She says if there's anything she can do to fix it, she'll do it. She says she'll never see him again. She says she'll beg for my forgiveness every day. My face remains empty. She touches my arm lightly, and I flinch. Something cracks in her expression. She steps back. Darkness seems to envelop the room again, pressing in from the corners. Finally, she breaks. She says she can't live like this, that if I can't forgive her, maybe we should separate. Maybe it's best if she leaves. She's trembling. I watch her, feel a spark of anger. So now she gets to walk away, leaving me alone with the shards of what was once our marriage. My hands ball into fists. She sees it. For a moment, I see genuine fear in her eyes, but I'm not going to hurt her physically. I just feel that surge of rage pulsing through my veins. Then I turn and walk upstairs, leaving her there. I recall the night I installed the phone sabotage. I was in bed, phone in hand, her phone in the other. She'd left it unlocked by accident. I scrolled through messages to him. My heart hammered as I read the "miss you, wish I could be with you now. Last night was amazing." I tasted blood in my mouth from biting my cheek. Then I found the keyboard settings, typed a new shortcut. Whenever she typed love, it would autocorrect to betray. My finger hovered over the screen for a second, my conscience screaming at me not to do it. Then I clicked save. A cold thrill shot through me, followed by a wave of self-disgust. That's the man I've become. Someone who plays petty games to catch her or to humiliate her. But I had no other recourse. She was lying to me, and I was lying to myself. Now I see the consequences. She discovered it, and there's no more illusions. She knows I know. She's faced the mirror of her own guilt, and there's no more gaslighting me that I'm crazy or paranoid. The entire charade is collapsing. Yet I find no comfort in it. My days are spent in a dead silence. My nights are tortured by imagining them together. The only brief relief I get is that moment of small vengeance, seeing how rattled she is. That's how low I've sunk. One evening, near midnight, I hear her phone ring. She answers softly in the guest room. I eavesdrop from the hallway. I hear muffled words, something about him. She's telling him not to come here, not to try to fix anything, that she has to handle this on her own. Or maybe she's telling him she's done. It's a subdued conversation with uneasy tension. I feel a sudden impulse to barge in, snatch the phone, scream at him. But I hold back. My anger sears me from the inside, but I've become the master of silent war. She ends the call. The next morning, she tries again to talk to me, begs me for a chance. I walk out the door, ignoring her. I can tell she's close to breaking. That afternoon, I come home from a short trip to the store. She's in the living room, pacing, hair disheveled, eyes red. She says we need to talk. She insists. Something in her tone is final. I stand across from her, arms folded. She breathes in. She starts to speak, carefully, haltingly. She knows she messed up. She's ended things with him. She wants to salvage what we have. She's not asking me to pretend everything is fine. She just wants a chance to show me she's serious. I watch her for a long moment. My heartbeat thunders, not with love, but with a swirl of hate and heartbreak. I tell her quietly, I have nothing to say. I start to walk away, but she grabs my arm. For the first time in ages, I see real desperation in her eyes. She begs me to believe her. She swears she'll do anything. She mentions counseling, therapy, quitting her job, whatever it takes. I yank my arm free, my composure cracking. My voice, hoarse from days of silence, rasps out something like, "Do you think I can just forget you spent your nights in another man's bed?" She flinches. My words come out in an angry hiss. She tries to respond, but I cut her off with a trembling hand. The bartender noticed, gave me a concerned glance, but I waved him off. I didn't need pity. I needed to let the final shards of my old self fall away. When I left the bar, it was almost midnight. The city was quiet, the streets glistening with a recent rain. Headlights reflected off puddles in dark alleys. I made my way home, the only home I had left, and unlocked the door to silence. For a moment, I paused in the doorway, half expecting to hear Alex's voice, to sense her presence, but the apartment was dead still. I kicked off my shoes and walked through the dark rooms. It wasn't until I reached the bathroom that I heard it again. The drip, drip, drip of a faucet. The same sound that had started this entire nightmare. I turned on the light and stared at the sink. A slow leak from the tap formed a bead of water. Then it fell, hitting the porcelain with a soft asterisk ping. Asterisk over and over. I clenched my jaw and tried to shut it tightly. But the faucet was old, worn out. The drip continued. Then something in me snapped. I grabbed the handle with a sudden, violent twist, ignoring the groaning sound of metal scraping. For a moment, the dripping stopped. A hush settled. My reflection in the mirror looked unhinged, eyes wild, hair disheveled, suit jacket dripping from the rain outside. I thought about the last few weeks. The Netflix discovery, the party, the corridor where I saw them touching, the investment scam, her broken expression, my final victory that felt more like a death sentence. Rage and sorrow collided inside me. I slammed a fist against the sink, feeling the shock vibrate up my arm. The mirror shook, but didn't break. The faucet groaned again, and for half a second, I feared it would snap clean off. I waited, heart pounding. Finally, the drip returned, slow, mocking, as if to remind me that nothing truly stops, not even when everything is lost. I exhaled a ragged breath, flicked off the bathroom light, and walked into the bedroom. This time, I didn't expect her to be there. I knew she wouldn't be, not ever again. I removed my jacket, threw it on a chair, and sank onto the mattress, staring at the dark ceiling. In the blackness, my mind conjured the image of Alex's face from that final morning. No tears, no screams, just emptiness, a quiet resignation, like she understood we'd burned every bridge. Some might expect me to feel regret in that moment, to wish I could take back my cruelty. But I felt none. The only thing I tasted was a strange mixture of satisfaction and desolation, swirling together in the pit of my stomach. I thought about Michael, how he'd looked at me in the cafe. Concerned, guilty, maybe even in love with her. A wave of disgust coursed through me. But behind that disgust was a faint, weary acceptance. They'd do what they wanted, and I was no longer part of their story. Time passed in a haze. I couldn't tell if I slept. Eventually, dawn's pale light crept around the edges of the curtains. A new day. A life without her. A world that felt empty and yet strangely open. I forced myself up, showered, dressed in fresh clothes. My reflection stared back from the mirror with hollow cheeks, a stubble that I'd let grow too long, and eyes that had seen too much. The man I used to be was gone. Maybe that was the point. I left the apartment building, heading nowhere. The city's morning rush had started. I drifted with the crowd, stepping over cracks in the sidewalk, passing strangers who looked right through me. I remembered how Alex always said New York's anonymity could be comforting if you embraced it. Maybe she was right. Eventually, I wound up at a small park, half-empty benches scattered among skeletal trees. I sat down, leaning forward, elbows on my knees. The cold air stung my face, but I hardly felt it. My mind was a blank canvas. I tried to conjure some sense of purpose. Asterisk what now, John? Asterisk my future, once so carefully charted, was a blank slate. My finances, ironically, were still intact because I'd made sure only her portion would vanish. Part of me felt relief. Another part felt a nagging shame. But I shoved that aside. An older man wandered by, wearing a faded cap, feeding pigeons from a small bag of seeds. He gave me a nod. I nodded back. For a moment, I envied his simple routine. I wondered if he had regrets, lost loves, or betrayals in his past. Probably. Maybe he, too, had once known heartbreak. I closed my eyes, letting the faint winter sun warm my eyelids. My chest felt tight, but no tears came. I felt too empty for tears. Alex's face swam through my thoughts, her gentle smile when we first started dating, her body pressed to mine in the darkness, the soft moans that told me she was mine. I saw her leaning toward Michael at that party, eyes lit with excitement, the foam in her hands glowing like a beacon of our doomed marriage. A short laugh escaped me, startling a nearby pigeon. How surreal life can be. One moment, you're secure, trusting, wrapped in the comfort of routine. The next, you discover your wife has added another man to your Netflix, and it all spirals into ashes. But that was the reality. I'd been destroyed only to discover I could still stand. I'd lost a love that once meant the world to me, but in that loss, I found a twisted kind of freedom. No more illusions, no more false smiles, no more nights lying awake in suspicion. I stayed on that bench until my limbs felt stiff with cold. My phone buzzed a few times, calls from business associates, maybe an old friend trying to reach me. I ignored them. I was not ready to be that version of myself again. I needed space, time to figure out who I'd become. Eventually, hunger pushed me to move. I grabbed a coffee from a nearby cart, sipping it black and bitter. Each swallow felt like a slap to my taste buds, but at least it woke me up. I pulled out my phone, stared at the blank home screen. No messages from Alex, of course. No reason for her to reach out. My finger hovered over the messaging app. A momentary impulse to text her something. Asterisk what would I even say? Sorry. Come back. Are you all right? Asterisk none of those felt honest. The only emotion I truly owned was the knowledge that I could never forgive her. Not fully, not in this lifetime. So I locked the phone, pocketed it, and walked on. The city roared around me, indifferent as always. My revenge was complete, my marriage destroyed. Part of me expected more satisfaction, more closure. But maybe closure was a myth. Maybe some wounds just keep bleeding quietly, no matter how many times you stitch them up. As I crossed the street, a taxi nearly clipped my heel, honking angrily. I stepped back onto the curb, heart pounding. For a split second, I thought, asterisk, what if I had let it hit me? But that was fleeting. I might be broken, but I wasn't suicidal. I was too consumed by anger and bitterness to even consider giving up. I took a slow breath, scanning the faces around me. Men in suits rushing to offices, women juggling bags and phones, students with backpacks dashing for the bus. They all had their secrets, their heartbreaks. Some hidden, some too big to hide. And me. I was just another man who'd learned the hard way how fragile trust can be, how easily love morphs into something poisonous. But I walked on, step by step, carrying the aftermath of my choices. That evening, I returned to the apartment. The hallway was too quiet without her footsteps, without the scent of her perfume lingering in the air. I set my keys on the counter, noticing the faint ring of dust where her favorite vase used to stand. The emptiness pressed in on me. I turned on the living room lamp and stared at the blank TV screen, remembering how we used to curl up on the couch and binge-watch shows together. My mind flickered to that Netflix profile, the first crack in our marriage's dam. Funny how the smallest detail can open the floodgates. I sank into the chair, exhaling. Scheme untouchable now, I thought. Nobody could hurt me more than I'd already been hurt. I'd lost my illusions, my love. Maybe that meant I'd found something else. A kind of cold, unbreakable shell. My phone vibrated on the table. I considered ignoring it, but a nagging curiosity made me pick it up. Another unknown number. The text read, "You're alive. I hope. Good. We should talk soon. About the future." I stared at the message. No idea who it was. Probably someone from the ruined investment circle, or maybe a new associate sniffing around for a chance to partner. About the future. I let out a quiet chuckle. The future was wide open. A dark expanse without Alex. I typed back a single reply. Not now. Then I set the phone aside, ran a hand over my face, feeling the rough stubble. Maybe I'd call them back tomorrow. Maybe not. The illusions that once guided my life were gone, shattered by betrayal. But I was still standing, still breathing. The drip in the bathroom sink continued. Drip, drip, drip. I decided not to fix it. I would leave it as a reminder, a soundtrack to the emptiness I had embraced. Maybe, in time, I'd replace the entire faucet. Maybe I'd move out of this apartment, or maybe I'd just let it keep dripping, a steady pulse marking the end of one existence and the beginning of another. In the darkness, I thought about Alex's final expression. The stillness of it, the quiet admission of defeat. She didn't cry. I realized that was the detail that haunted me most. Her tears had dried up the moment she understood I was capable of something far more devastating than a violent outburst. I was capable of dismantling everything she held dear, piece by piece, with the cold patience of a man who'd already died inside. And that was the truth. I wasn't the same person anymore. I wonder if I'll be here if she does. The next morning, I wake with a new clarity. She's gone, presumably staying at her parents'. She's done with Kevin, she claims. But is that even true? My mind conjures the possibility that they ran off together. But no, her mother said she's there in St. Louis. My phone rings. This time I answer. It's my boss, telling me I need to finalize the marketing campaign or he'll find someone else. I promise him I'll have it done. That day, I bury myself in the work to keep from collapsing. But every so often, my gaze drifts to the guest room door, cracked open, the bed still a little unmade from when she last slept there. A wave of sorrow washes over me, but I clamp it down. Days become weeks. She doesn't return. We exchange a few cold text messages about logistics, bills, mail, practical details. Not a word about us, or about love, or about betrayal, just the mundane. My mother calls, tries to pry out the truth. I can't speak of it.